MyBookie.ag presents The Hurry Up.
Welcome into the Nesson Digital Studio. I'm Courtney Cox, and it is time for the first of two preseason episodes of The Hurry Up, presented by MyBookie.ag. Now the NFL is back, so it is time to talk all things football. We will be here in Studio D and down at Gillette Stadium, so make sure to buckle in because it's going to be a wild ride. Let's jump right into it. We're going to send it to Gillette Stadium to my friends Rachel Holt and Zach Cox.
Thanks, Courtney. Rachel Holt for Nesson.com alongside Zach Cox here at Gillette Stadium with your Patriots preseason reset. The regular season is less than 2 weeks away. Dante Hightower is off the PUP list. He returns, and it's a good sign for the Patriots because they have a lot of question marks at this point in their front seven.
It absolutely is a good sign. Dante Hightower is probably the best player on this Patriots defense. I know there are a few guys that could argue with that. But yeah, really the biggest question mark for this team following Rob Ninkovich's retirement, following Derek Rivers' injury, which could be season-ending, is what are they going to do at defensive end? The answer might be not even put a defensive end there. They might actually end up using Dante Hightower in that edge rusher spot, which is a spot that although he's a linebacker, he does have experience coming off the edge, and he's probably the team's best pass rusher. So still isn't sure whether we'll see him in this game against the Lions, whether we'll see him in week 4 of the preseason, but it's definitely something to keep your eye on.
Now, what we do know is this is going to be one heck of a high-powered offense. There are a number of weapons at running back. Has there been one guy that stood out to you at this point through training camp?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway so far through training camp is a guy we haven't seen much. That's Mike Gillislee. We really saw him only kind of the first 2 days of camp where he looked good and then kind of disappeared. We learned today that he had been dealing with a hamstring injury. He re-aggravated something early in camp. He's now back, though. He was back on the practice field today. He said he was a full go. He called himself 100% healthy. So he's a guy that really adds a different dimension than Rex Burkhead, Dion Lewis, and James White. So it'll be very interesting to see what he can bring to this group, because he was a guy who we weren't even really sure, we haven't really seen yet. So maybe, hopefully, he'll be out there against the Lions. We'll be able to see what he can bring to this team.
Zach, we are inching closer and closer to September 7th. I know people here, they're very excited about that.
Here with Ricky Doyle, or Coco and Dubes, chatting it up here in Studio D. It's time to talk over-under win totals for the AFC. This is our AFC-themed hurry up, if you will. So let's talk teams that you like.
Teams that I like. So I looked at some of the over-under totals where you can put your money down. So from an over standpoint, I really like the Tennessee Titans over 8.5.
Okay.
I'm big on the Titans this year. I think a lot of people are, and for good reason. I mean, Marcus Mariota looks like he's pretty legit going back to last season when he was healthy. He is coming back off that broken leg, so that's something to monitor. But they do have one of the best offensive lines in football, a bruising tandem with Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray coming out of that backfield. Also added a couple weapons in Corey Davis and Eric Decker. I think that defense will be improved. I like them to win the AFC South, and I like them to do so with more than 8.5 wins. I also like the Los Angeles Chargers to win more than 7.5 games. I know a lot of talk with the AFC West, tough division, probably the best in football. Centers on some of the other teams, but I like the Chargers. I think going back to last season, they only went 5-11, but they were a pesky team, potent offense. Really, it was the defense that let them down. I think that'll be improved this year. Second year for Joey Bosa. Melvin Ingram's got himself a new contract, switching to a 4-3 under Gus Bradley. So I expect big things from that defense. And I think that some of the other teams across that division might regress a little bit despite the high expectations. So I like them going over.
How many people do you think are going to continue to call them the San Diego Chargers?
I've done it about 12 times already today, so I certainly feel those people's pain.
All right, fair enough. Well, with the good news, there's always the bad news.
Yep.
Tell me what you don't like.
The Jets. Everything about them, really.
Man.
But especially their win total, which is they had a 4.5. They're going to be lucky if they win a game. That is, they get the worst roster, one of the 3 worst rosters, I'll say, in the NFL. One of the worst quarterback situations that I've seen this century, and I'm not even exaggerating about that. I think they're going to be very bad. They're playing in the got to go up against the Patriots twice a year. They also play teams from the AFC West this year and the NFC South, which has sent representatives to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. So not a good time to be a Jets fan. And sticking with the old AFC East theme, don't like the Buffalo Bills
Keeping
either.
it in New York.
Yeah, really the Patriots, there's some validity to that undefeated talk, and it's because of that division. Weird offseason of Tyrod Taylor, not really buying into him all that much as well. LaShawn McCoy, age 29, running backs break down at some point. Got to think he might be nearing the end there. Mike Gillislee's gone. You lose some guys in that defense. Stephon Gilmore, Zach Brown, your leading tacklers. So it should be tough times for the rest of the AFC East not named the New England Patriots this year.
A loss for them, a game for the Patriots with Stephon Gilmore.
Exactly.
All right, well, great stuff from Ricky. As always, you can follow along with him on Twitter at the Ricky Doyle. You got to make sure you get that in. Or myself.
Not a fraud, a fake, or a phony.
Or myself at Cox Courtney. But let's keep it going. This is the Hurry Up.
And now we're back at Gillette Stadium. I'm joined by Doug Kyde. The New England Patriots are gearing up for their third preseason game against the Detroit-Lions this Friday. As we get closer to that first regular season game on September 7th against the Chiefs, we'll start to see the starters play deeper into this third game. So Doug, I want to ask you, which players are you going to be focused on the most come Friday?
We focused mostly on Mike Gillislee, just because we haven't seen him yet in a game. We saw him a little bit in practice, then his hamstring injury flared up. He says he's back to 100%, said he hasn't had an MRI on the hamstring. He's all good, so we'll see if he can kind of retake that starting running back role for the Patriots. It looked like Rex Burkhead might have usurped him a little bit last week. He had such a good game in the second preseason game, but with a good game here, Gillislee could be that starting early down back for the Patriots. On defense, I'll be watching Dont'a Hightower because we haven't seen him in a preseason game yet. That's more about his role. We know that Hightower will be good this season, but he might take on more of a pass rushing role this season. He's working with the defensive lineman in practice on Monday, so maybe we will see him on the edge there. The Patriots do have a lot of injuries at defensive end, so it's all about getting the best 11 players on the field. Even if they're not in their best position, Hightower probably is a better inside linebacker than outside linebacker, but he's a good player. You want him on the field. He's probably their most consistent pass rusher that's healthy.
Okay, Doug, the defending Super Bowl champs, they're 0-2 so far this preseason. Is there any reason to panic?
No. The sky is not falling. They will be just fine when the regular season starts. Yes.
Kind of feels like it's falling right now with this wind. Okay.
Falling sideways.
Yes, game time is scheduled for 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Follow along on NESN.com.
Welcome back to Studio D. Courtney Cox here with Mike Cole, and it is time to talk about the AFC and some predictions, which everybody loves to do. And we are in the preseason, so we're getting closer and closer to the regular season. So I guess it's time to do predictions.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I make these, inevitably guys will get hurt and I'll look like an idiot come the end of the season. But yeah, let's give it a whirl.
And if you want to tell him that he's an idiot, you can tweet at him at Mike Cole Nesson. Have to plug that there. Nice. But I think the way that we'll do this, I remember in middle school, elementary school, they always said never eat soggy waffles, you know?
Shredded wheat.
The way, Oh, okay, that one works too. So we'll start in the North. What's your prediction for the North?
The North, it's a tricky division. I think it's going to be one of the more competitive divisions, especially if Joe Flacco is healthy. But I'm still going to take the Steelers. I like that defense. Roethlisberger, as long as he stays healthy, is probably the second best quarterback in that conference. And just a lot of weapons. Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, and they're getting Martavis Bryant back. Defense is pretty good. I like the Steelers there. All
right, I agree with you on that one. The next one, AFC East. I mean, this one seems like a landslide for most people.
Yeah, you're taking the Jets, right? The Patriots, I mean, I tried, I got nothing. There's no other way to justify it, so it's the Patriots.
Yeah, you look at their schedule, it just doesn't make sense. Now let's move on to the AFC South.
Okay. I'll go with the Tennessee Titans there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I like what the Titans have done the last couple of years. I think this is a really good core. I think they have a good young quarterback in Mariota. I like what they did in the draft. They needed a receiver. They went out and got Corey Davis, maybe a little bit of a reach, and they needed a cornerback, and they got Adoree Jackson.
And Marcus Mariota, you bring up. Did you see that video of him with the fan with special needs?
Yeah, it's good karma.
It is.
Can't bet against that.
And a great guy. You can't not root for Marcus Mariota. All right, and last but certainly not least, the West.
The West, I like the Raiders, assuming that Derek Carr is healthy. Again, a lot of questions about health, but I just look at the rest of that division, and it just looks like a bunch of teams ready to go 8-8, 7-9, maybe 9-7. Again, I don't love their run defense. I think that there are issues there up front. But they have so many weapons, assuming everybody's healthy and assuming Marshawn Lynch has some good football left in him, that they're going to be able to win shootouts.
What a fun team to follow, especially interviews with Marshawn Lynch. Yeah. Who doesn't like those?
No kidding.
But you can't talk about predictions and not talk about wild cards, so who you got for that?
The wild cards, this was I sat there just staring at a piece of paper, and still I don't know, because I do think there's going to be, 8 or 9 teams in that conference that are 7-9 to 10-6, maybe if that. I was tempted to take 2 teams out of the West, or 2 wildcard teams out of the West, have 3 teams in the playoffs out of the West. I'm only going to go with 2 teams total. One of the wild cards, I'm going to give it to the Broncos. Questions at the quarterback position, I know, but they went out and they addressed their biggest need as well. Their offensive line was putrid last year. They gave it 24th worst sack percentage in all of football. They're going to have 4 new offensive linemen, including a new tackle that they took in the draft. So at least you're going to give Trevor Siemian or Paxton Lynch at some point time to throw. The other one, I'm going to the South. I don't love the South, but again, you got a chance to play the Jaguars twice a year. You got a chance to play the Colts. Who knows what they're going to be? So I'm going to take the Texans. I like what they have on defense. J.J. Watt's healthy. He's back. He's still the best player in football if he's healthy, at least on the defensive side of the ball. I think that's Deshaun Watson's teams ultimately, and I like what he did in college. I don't love him as a player, but he just wins, so it's tough to go against that.
Great stuff from Mike, as always. You want to follow along with him on Twitter at Mike Cole Nesson or myself at Cox Courtney, but we are now going to throw it to our good friend Ricky Doyle for some show and tell.
The name of the game is Show and Tell. This is where I bring in objects each week and use them to give you a few developing thoughts I have on the NFL season. First objects are bringing in this week. We got a couple of Bulls. I think you know where I'm going with this one. Todd Bowles, head coach of the New York Jets, will be the first NFL coach fired this season. Look, the Jets are terrible. They got a bad roster, especially at the quarterback position. That means a lot of losing. With losing comes the potential to fire your head coach. Also, going back to last season, the New York Jets aren't too good. And let's face it, Todd Bowles was a reason, not the reason, but one of the reasons for those issues. A lot of just turmoil in the locker room to go along with their losing ways. So he's probably on the hot seat already. Don't be surprised if he gets canned a few weeks into the season. And also don't be surprised if the New York Jets put up a big old donut hole in the win column this season, because let's face it, like I said, they're not going to be very good. Strawberry frosted, my favorite, my good friend Coco's favorite. So let's move on to the next object. Now they got this out of the way. We got a baseball bat. And listen, the Indianapolis Colts, they brought in a former Chiefs executive, Chris Ballard, to run that team, fired general manager Ryan Grigson. And what he did was he took a baseball bat to the defense. You would think that would make them a little bit better this year because their defense was so terrible last year. But unless they improve that offensive line, this team's still not going to make any noise in the AFC South. Andrew Luck's a good quarterback, but let's face it, he gets beat up. He's always unhealthy. I can't see him making it through the season if they don't address that offensive line. So, not buying the Colts in that division. Finally, we got a controller here. And this is for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Who's going to control that offense? Certainly isn't going to be Blake Bortles. We've seen that time and time again. Just as many pick sixes as he has career wins. So it's time to give the controls to Chad Henne. Will Doug Marrone make the move? It certainly seems like it could be trending in that direction. The battle is up for grabs. I'm giving it to Henne over Bortles, although let's be cut and dry about this. Henne ain't the deal either. I don't think he's going to last the season, which means you might have another guy come in. This potentially could be where Colin Kaepernick gets his opportunity. I know it's out there, but I'll say Colin Kaepernick wins more games in the NFL this season than Blake Bortles.
So that'll do it for the first episode of The Hurry Up, presented by mybookie.ag. Thanks so much for tuning in. And like I said, this is the first of 2 preseason episodes. There was a theme in this one with the AFC. So next week, it'll be the NFC. So make sure to head on back for that. Make sure to keep it locked in right here, Nesson.com, for all your football needs.